The Spotlight, shining a light on podcasts and videos that have caught our attention.
Hi and welcome to The Spotlight. My name is Jen Spiker and today I'm highlighting a recent conversation that was heard on Vision's weekend program, Real Faith. Molly Cubes had an incredibly successful social media business. Her income was largely derived from her involvement in the New Age movement. So when she began to believe in Jesus, this presented a big challenge. On Real Faith, Eric Scatterbo spoke to Molly to hear more of her story.
The Spotlight with Jen Spiker.
Molly Cubes had an incredibly successful social media business that's income was largely derived from her involvement in the New Age movement. So what did she do when she began to believe in Jesus, but her business commitments were entangled in New Age philosophy? We'll find out how she was set free and how she's now using her gifts for the Lord as she shares her story with us today. Molly Cubes, welcome to the program.
Hi.
So glad to have you with us, and you're joining us from the Sunshine Coast, is that right?
Yes.
And you were so involved in the New Age movement that your whole income, a large part of your income, was derived from that. How deep were you into it? What did it all involve?
Yeah, well, it was my full-time gig at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I was involved in multiple different New Age practices like yoga, tantra. I even went to Peru and did ayahuasca with shamans. So I was pretty involved. It definitely was my whole well-being at the time. So pretty deep. Yeah.
Okay. I think I want to know a little bit more about that trip to Peru, but we'll get to that eventually. That sounds pretty interesting. Let's go back to where it all started. You were born and raised in Canada.
Yes. Yeah.
So what was it like growing up in Toronto, Canada?
Yeah, well, it was pretty good. It was cold in the winters, warm in the summers.
Well, I know about that. I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
we know about snow and all that stuff. But what were your general impressions of your family life growing up?
I have a very secure family, actually, like a really strong family unit. 2 older brothers. Parents have been married since they were 20. They're now in their 60s. So I had a really healthy relationship with my family, with my parents. My dad came actually from a Seventh-day Adventist church, and it was he actually came to Canada because he was born in Bosnia, and the war that happened basically caused his family to immigrate to Canada. And apparently, I don't know too much about this, but I guess he had some bad experiences with religion through that segment of the church. And so he probably calls himself a Christian, but we did go to church, and my mom was in Sunday school when I was younger, but I never really identified, or our family never overtly called ourselves Christians. We didn't really read the Bible in our own spare time. Kind of mostly went to church for special events and things like that.
Okay, and then when you got into your teenage years, you kind of went down a dark path, would you say?
Yeah, well, I went to a very prestigious university that was all about work hard, play hard. So it was quite academically challenging, but at the same time, it was also a really big party culture. And I got caught up in the party culture and was staying out late, drinking, drugs, experimenting with all of those things. And one morning, I actually just got really, really sick, and I basically couldn't get out of bed. And it wasn't from being hungover. It was a lot more than that. And my whole life basically changed. I realized I had to make some really dramatic lifestyle shifts.
Now, is this related to your gut health?
Yeah, it was related to my gut health. Yeah. And I realized, I had to really make some big changes in my life. And so I decided to pursue more of like a health and wellness lifestyle. And I started seeing a naturopath, and doctors they didn't know what was going on with me. Whereas I had a lot more support from the natural wellness culture. And I ended up finding a yoga community. Yoga was recommended to me because of the impact it can have on our health and stress.
Yeah,
And
let me just interrupt here a moment. I'm just trying to put myself in your situation. And also, I should say, my daughter and son also have issues with gut health. And it can be very frustrating because you like to eat food and certain things are setting off your stomach to, have bad pains and everything. So you must have been in a desperate situation there, just wanting some relief from all that and wanting to eat some good food.
Yeah, definitely. I was willing to try anything. Yeah. So one of the things that I also struggled with was my community was still into partying and drinking and doing drugs. So I wanted to separate myself from that community. So when I found yoga, I really felt supported and safe. And a lot of these people weren't into these things and they were into me healing and they really supported that journey. So I felt really safe in that community.
Yeah, so it sounds understandable. You're trying to get some relief from your pain and away from the bad influence of the people taking drugs. So at the time, correct me if I'm wrong, but this would have been a positive change in your life.
It was, yeah. The only thing is that I would say yoga was definitely the gateway drug into the new age.
That's kind of what started you off in a sense.
Yeah, maybe I wasn't doing drugs on the weekends anymore. However, I started experimenting with different religions or like different spiritual practices. I wouldn't say I was religious, but like I wouldn't have called myself religious, but I was definitely practicing some of these spiritual practices religiously. Yoga just introduced me to a lot of different things like Buddhism, mysticism, Taoism, shamanism, Tantra. I really started to explore this more spiritual side.
And what was driving you?
I guess I had tasted something and I just wanted to explore it more. It was like this sense of adventure and curiosity. And I did have a lot of these spiritual moments. And I felt that I just wanted to know more about what that meant. I also had experimented with psychedelics before.
Psychedelic drugs, you mean?
Yeah. And that was really big in the culture as well. So instead of doing these things from a party standpoint, it's more so you're doing it to explore consciousness and spirituality. So there were a few podcasts that I had listened to that influenced me to then go and explore like ayahuasca in Peru and things like that, which is actually a psychedelic shamanic brew that the shamans use in Peru it's very similar to actually expel demons from you.
Oh, is that how it's kind of packaged? Because I know that a lot of rock stars and even some athletes are getting into this drug in Peru, and it's kind of the cool new drug, but it's a way of, they think it's a way of having drugs, but it's not illegal drugs. It's kind of a more sophisticated, but at the end of the day, it's a deception from the devil, but it's kind of what a lot of people are being tricked by these days.
Yeah.
So you made that trip to Peru. What were you hoping to achieve?
So I wanted to heal my gut as well. So I heard that a lot of these physical ailments can be linked to spiritual ailments and like it's all kind of interconnected. And so I wanted to explore that. And also I heard that ayahuasca was very like physically cleansing as well. So literally it makes you throw up and go to the bathroom pretty intensely.
Wow, so it literally physically cleans you out.
But the shamans believe that this is you actually expelling demonic forces as well. It's like you're literally cleansing yourself physically, but you're also cleansing yourself spiritually as well. So you're like getting all the gunk out literally.
But so, I mean, now looking at it from your perspective now as a Christian, ironically, wasn't it kind of opening yourself up to demonic forces?
Yeah, I think 100%. 100%.
But at the time, you didn't know that.
I mean, like for us, we believe as Christians, there's one God and he is sovereign. Whereas in those cultures, they believe in multiple different gods. So they believe that ayahuasca is its own divine spiritual force that will heal you. And it's actually the serpent plant as well. So it's literally like you're drinking this serpent to cleanse you. But at the same time, it just pulled me deeper and deeper into these New Age practices. And I think the biggest issue from my end and from the New Age in general is that I did feel better. I came out of that a completely different person, and I was changed. People would approach me and be like, wow, you have this glow. Like, what are you doing? And all of these things, but it was the false light. And maybe I was healing in the physical sense, but I didn't have eternal life. So it was only a small fragment of what God offers us.
Yeah, a counterfeit, ultimately.
Yeah, it was a huge counterfeit. And like they say that Lucifer is the fallen angel and it's the false light.
On the Spotlight, we've been listening to part of a conversation between Eric Scatterbo and Molly Cubes on Real Faith. We'll hear the balance of this fascinating story next time, but if you want to hear the full interview right now, you can by tapping the podcast tab in the free Vision app. Search for Real Faith and the episode Molly Cubes Entangled in the New Age Movement. If you have a favourite podcast or video series that you'd like to hear featured on the Spotlight, click Contact Us at vision.org.au and share the link. My name is Jen Spiker. Join me next time as I share the conclusion of this Real Faith episode.
For more great podcasts and videos like the one featured today, check out vision.org.au or the free Vision app.